Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program on tonight. As you can see, I'm not wearing a jacket this evening. I was rushing to get out of my place earlier on today, and believe it or not, I forgot my jacket. So, nevertheless, this show must go on. So let's get down to the topic of discussion on tonight. The headlines from the legal department of Politico coming out of New York City reads: Judge dismisses Eric Adams' case, denying the DOJ or the Department of Justice an opportunity to revive it later. The department wanted to drop the charges while retaining the right to refile them someday, an arrangement that could have given Trump powerful leverage over Adams. Well, apparently that's not going to happen. So, as it goes now, a federal judge on Wednesday permanently dismissed the criminal case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, clinching a remarkable turn of fortune from the embattled Democrat, who was indicted on corruption charges 6 months ago, but was left off the hook when President Donald Trump's Justice Department decided to stop prosecuting him. The department wanted to drop the charges while retaining the right to refile them someday, an arrangement that could have given the Trump administration powerful leverage over Adams. U.S. District Judge Dale Ho rejected that proposal in scorching terms, and he criticized the department's rationales for abandoning the case. But because judges have little power to force a criminal case to continue against the wishes of the Justice Department, he ordered the charges dismissed forever, meaning Mayor Eric Adams can never be charged again. In a 78-page decision, the judge wrote that allowing the Justice Department to reserve the right to refile charges, quote, would create the unavoidable perception that the mayor's freedom depends on his ability to carry out the immigration enforcement priorities of the administration, and that he might be more beholden to the demands of the federal government than to the wishes of his own constituents, end quote. The demise of the case caps a dramatic saga for both Adams and the Justice Department. New York prosecutors' headline-grabbing charges last fall marked the first federal indictment of a sitting New York City mayor in modern history, plaguing the embattled mayor throughout his re-election campaign. And when weeks into the start of the Trump administration, a top Justice Department official decided to reverse course and seek to drop the prosecution, his order to abandon it sparked a wave of protests, resignations by career prosecutors in New York and Washington. With the dismissal of the charges, Adams can now turn his attention to running for re-election in a crowded Democratic primary field led by Governor Andrew Cuomo. The case, which has lingered in limbo since February, has cost Adams time and millions of dollars in public matching funds. Petitions for those participating in primary are due Thursday, and Adams has not said whether he intends to run in the Democratic Party. Listen to this carefully. He has not said whether he intends to run in the Democratic Party. The mayor has barely campaigned. He skips mayoral forums, didn't participate in a union candidate screening, and has only a skeletal staff. I've told you all over and over again, a double cross is going to happen. A double cross is going to happen. Adams is going to defect from the Democratic Party at some point in time and become a MAGA Republican. Just like people did not believe me when I kept making video after video after video about Project 2025, telling them exactly what was coming down the pike. But you know what I have found out? As a journalist and commentator and broadcaster and soon to be lawyer, this is what I have found out. People don't like to be informed about truth. People love entertainment, gossip, saga. People love prying into the lives of celebrities and other people. But when it comes to everyday things, they think you're trying to tell them what to do. You're grown. You can make your own decisions. but you better be well informed. And I'll say this, and then I'm going to finish reading this article. Remember this: what you don't know can hurt you. And if you don't know what your enemy is thinking and what your enemy is doing, they will always have leverage over you. The mayor punctuated his remarks by holding up a copy of a memoir, Government Gangsters, quote unquote, written by Trump's FBI Director Kash Patel, which the mayor said he'd explain the rationale behind federal prosecutors charging him. Adams encouraged New Yorkers to read the book, which exposes the existence of a vengeful deep state with the federal government, to understand how he can never allow this to happen to another innocent American. Y'all not listening again. You're not, people not getting it. You watch the double cross happen. Asked for a comment on the decision, a spokesperson for DOJ called the case an example of political weaponization and a waste of resources. Well, what's going on now in Washington? Weaponization of the government. Every day. Every day decisions are made that are going to affect your life and mine. Republicans, well, you heard John McCarthy, so-called Christian, so-called Bible thumper, so-called believer in Jesus. He stood up and said, either you're with us or against us. McCarthyism did the same thing. Become students of history. Anytime you don't go along with the ruling party, they always want to demonize you. They want to destroy you. They want to malign you. They want to try to make you feel bad. And those of you that want to go along with wrong, keep on until it comes to your doorstep, to your family, to your relatives, to your friends. Then it takes on a different meaning. Ho's decision came after a court-appointed lawyer advised the judge last month to reject the Justice Department's effort to dismiss the charges while preserving its ability to revive them. The lawyer, former U.S. Solicitor General Paul Clement, argued that granting the department that ability could create an appearance of improper leverage over the mayor. Clement also suggested such a scenario could prompt an actual shakedown in which Trump's administration could use the threat of the charges to pressure the mayor to assist with the president's agenda. Those concerns arose in large part because Imal Bove, then the Justice Department's acting number 2 official, told Ho that the DOJ sought to drop the charges because the case had impeded Adams' ability to assist Trump on immigration and national security matters. Bove's decision to abandon the case triggered a revolt inside the Justice Department. Senior prosecutors in Washington and in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan resigned in protest. Some accused Bove of engaging in an unethical quid pro quo with Adams. In a hearing in February, Ho, an appointee of President Joe Biden, acknowledged he had very little discretion to interfere with the department's efforts, signaling the eventual fate of the case. Federal prosecutors in the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office charged Adams in September of 2024 with wire fraud and bribery, and alleged he participated in a years-long conspiracy to receive illegal foreign campaign contributions. Trump on the campaign trail said he was open to pardoning Adams, and the two met at Mar-a-Lago shortly before Trump took office. On February 10, Bove ordered New York prosecutors to drop the case. All right. If you know anything about politics, the winning party always rewards their friends and they punish their enemies. Say that again. They reward their friends and they punish their enemies. In his order, Bove said the decision had been made not on the strength of the evidence or the legal theories underpinning the case, but because the department believed the prosecution would interfere with the defendant's ability to govern in New York City. And Bove argued because the timing of the charges 9 months before the mayoral primary gave the appearance of impropriety. Oh, really? Really? The crooks are always hollering about injustice and injustice and wire fraud and fake news. I call it lying news because there's a lot of lying going on. The interim Manhattan U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassone and the prosecutors who brought the case balked at those justifications, and Sassone and at least 5 others in New York and Washington resigned rather than comply with the dismissal order. In his decision, Ho excoriated Justice Department officials' rationales for abandoning the case, though both wrote that it had been marred by appearances of impropriety. The judge said of the prosecutors who worked on it that there is no evidence, zero, that they had any improper motives. And Ho dismissed Bove's argument that the case was charged too close to the mayoral primary, writing that the timing is entirely consistent with prior public corruption prosecutions. That's true, because when they charge now former Senator Menendez from New Jersey, it was during the campaign season. It was during the re-election season. Nobody cried foul then. All of this suggests that the appearances of impropriety's rationale is not just thin, but pretextual, Ho wrote. And he derided the Justice Department's argument that the case impeded Adams' ability to assist in immigration enforcement as similarly unsubstantiated. Ho noted that shortly after DOJ asked him to dismiss the case, the mayor said he would allow immigration and customs enforcement agents to the jail on Rikers Island. Quote, an act that appears to be contrary to New York City law, end quote. He wrote, quote, everything here smacks of a bargain. Dismissal of the indictment in exchange for immigration policy concessions, end quote. The judge described the Justice Department's immigration enforcement rationale as, quote, both unprecedented and breathtaking in its sweep, end quote. He said he couldn't find any examples of the government dismissing charges against an elected official in order to facilitate that person's ability to assist with federal policy aims. And he wrote that the Justice Department's assertion that it has a, quote, virtually unrevivable, quote, ability to drop charges on the basis, quote, disturbing in its breadth, implying that public officials may revive special dispensation if they are compliant with the incumbent administration's policy priorities, end quote. That suggestion is fundamentally incompatible with the basic promise of equal justice under the law, quote, end quote, Ho wrote. Well, while he rejected the department's arguments for dismissing the case, the judge acknowledged his predicament. He can't force the government to prosecute someone. The court, he wrote, quote, would have no way to compel the government to prosecute a case in circumstances like those presented here, end quote. But even as the dismissal of the case delivered a significant legal reprieve for the mayor, the decision by the department had become his political albatross, drawing accusations by Adams' fellow Democrats that the Trump administration would use the threat of future prosecution to force compliance from the mayor. The mayor in the past has restricted himself from criticizing the President of the United States, but our office obviously has not, said New York City Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat and Trump foe. In an interview after the ruling, quote, we will continue, obviously, to defend the rights and privileges of the residents of the great state of New York, including New York City, going forward. We'll see whether or not the mayor steps up and joins us in that effort, end quote. Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit.